The story begins in San Francisco, USA, where we are introduced to a young woman named Emma who has just arrived from Australia after a long flight. Emma works for a major oil company, and her home country is facing a serious oil shortage. To solve the issue, she has come to America to finalize a crucial oil deal.
The company, More Oil, is expected to close a contract with the Australian ambassador, Emma Thompson.
Soon after landing, she checks into her hotel and gets ready for a scheduled business meeting. But when she arrives at the meeting location, she finds that only one person is there, an American company representative named Jennifer. Emma apologizes for being late, explaining that it was already quite late at night and everyone else had already left.
Sorry, I'm late. The flight was delayed.
Jennifer reassures her that their company is ready to provide more than enough oil and there will be no issues with the supply. Emma is relieved. She signs the contract documents and the deal is successfully completed. Later that night, Emma decides to return to her hotel, but when she steps outside, the streets are unusually empty and there are no taxis nearby. Just then, a taxi appears on the far side of the road, driven by a woman who calls out to Emma and says, "You need a taxi." At first, Emma ignores her, but with no other transportation options, she reluctantly agrees and gets into the car. As they drive, Emma starts to feel a bit uneasy. The woman seems to be watching her closely, and instead of heading toward the hotel, the car turns toward a quiet, isolated area. The driver says she'll be back in a minute and steps out. But moments later, she suddenly returns and catches Emma off guard, causing her to lose consciousness. When Emma wakes up, she finds herself in a strange cabin, her hands and legs secured to a chair. Two men enter the room and bring in another girl who appears to have been through something very traumatic. Seeing her, Emma breaks down in tears. One of the men introduces himself as Jim and the other as Pete. Jim explains that the previous girls were no longer useful to them, so now they have brought Emma to take their place. Emma pleads with them to let her go, offering them money and anything they want, but Jim only laughs and says, "We're not interested in your money." He then holds up a mirror and tells her, "From now on, you belong to us." To scare her, he does something cruel to the injured girl, causing Emma to panic and scream in fear. Jim walks out to have a smoke and tells Pete to keep an eye on Emma. Pete then asks him something disturbing, and Jim agrees to give him a part of what's left. Jim later returns and questions Emma about why she came. Emma explains everything: her company, the oil deal, her mission. She begs for her life, saying she's wealthy and will give anything to be released. Jim refuses. He shows her a photo of his wife and child and explains that his home life no longer gives him the satisfaction he wants, so he targets young women to feel in control again. Emma, disgusted, calls him a monster. Enraged by her words, Jim becomes violent and hurts her, while Pete holds her down to prevent her escape. Afterwards, Jim gives her an injection, and she once again loses consciousness. When she wakes up, she's still restrained, and Pete is sitting nearby watching her. Emma asks to go to the restroom, but Pete refuses, forcing her to remain in place. Meanwhile, Jim wraps the girl's body and takes it with him on a boat. Once he reaches the middle of the river, he quietly lets it sink into the water to make sure no one finds anything. After that, Jim goes to a bar to have a drink. While watching the news, he sees a report saying that Emma is missing. Back at her company, people start to worry about Emma not showing up, so they alert the media, and her missing report spreads. Jim sees this and gets frustrated. On the other side, at the cabin, Pete steps out for a while to handle something. Emma quickly reaches her purse, finds a pair of scissors, and starts cutting through the tape on her hands and legs. She tries to escape before Pete returns, but just as she gets out of the cabin, she sees Pete walking back. Emma hides behind the cabin, trying not to be seen, but Pete spots her, and Emma runs toward the woods to get away. But Pete follows her with a shotgun. After running for a while, Emma reaches a highway, but there's a fence on the side of the road. That's when Pete catches her and knocks her unconscious. Later, Jim comes back from town with supplies and sees Emma looking weak and shaken. He asks Pete, "What happened to her? Why does she look like this?" Pete replies, "She tried to run away. I had to stop her." Emma, still angry, says, "Don't act like you saved the day. I know you're lying." Jim hears both sides but doesn't believe Pete. He gets mad and scolds Pete harshly, hitting him with his belt. Pete walks out of the cabin. Jim turns to Emma and says, "I didn't know you were well known. Your missing case is all over the news, but I'll make sure no one finds you." But Emma replies, "They will. Soon found me." Hearing this, Jim gets angry. He throws food in her direction and leaves the room. That evening, Jim returns to the cabin after drinking heavily. He is clearly not in control of himself, and he walks over to Emma, treating her harshly while muttering, "I know you don't like me, but you're never leaving this place." He then forces his control over her, leaving Emma terrified. Emma yells, "If I get out of these ropes, I swear I'll make you pay for this." Jim laughs and replies, "You won't be able to do anything." Emma tries to provoke him, saying, "You're useless. Your wife probably left you for someone else. Your son doesn't even look like you. Maybe he's not even yours. Hearing this, Jim loses control. He angrily unties Emma, saying, "Fine, let's settle this now." Emma fights back, but she's too weak, and Jim knocks her down, leaving her unconscious again. In a daze, Jim walks outside to get some air. But when he returns a while later, he finds that Emma has escaped, and he panics. On the other side, Emma quietly escapes from the back and runs through the forest. After running for a while, she faints. The next morning, when she wakes up, she can barely walk. Somehow, she reaches a river and starts washing her face. As she leaves the river and starts walking away, suddenly Pete attacks her. He drags her back to the cabin and starts a grass-cutting machine, trying to kill her. Emma struggles hard to escape. She quickly grabs something nearby and hits Pete on the head, making him fall. Then she pushes him into the running machine, which kills him brutally. Just then, Emma hears Jim's voice calling her. She gets scared and runs to hide on the other side of the cabin. Jim comes out, sees Pete's dead body, and is shocked. Meanwhile, Emma sneaks inside and grabs Jim's gun. When Jim comes back inside, Emma says, "Now I'll take my revenge." Jim shouts, "How dare you kill my friend?" Emma fires the gun near him as a warning and says, "If you move even a little, I'll shoot you." She makes him sit on a chair and ties his hands and legs with tape. Then she takes a hammer from a toolbox and nails his hands, making him pass out in pain. When Jim wakes up, he finds himself completely tied up. Emma says, "Now I'll kill you slowly and painfully." She goes outside, brings a cut piece of Pete's body in the toolbox. She places the body part on Jim's face, making him throw up. Then Emma picks up a screwdriver and stabs it into Jim's body. Jim screams in pain and begs her to stop, but Emma doesn't listen. She says the torture isn't over yet. Jim curses at her, so Emma, in anger, cuts his leg. He cries in pain but still tries to act strong. He says if he survives, he'll abuse her again. Hearing this, Emma becomes furious. She pulls down his pants and crushes his private part with a hammer to make sure he can never hurt anyone again. After that, when Emma tries to leave, Jim somehow frees himself and attacks her. He grabs her neck and starts choking her, but Emma quickly pulls the screwdriver out of his shoulder and stabs it into his eyes, killing him instantly. Then Emma steps outside and sees the same girl who had helped kidnap her. Without wasting time, Emma picks up the gun and shoots her too, killing her on the spot. Then Emma slowly walks outside. While searching around the car, she finds a can of kerosene. Without wasting any time, she opens it and starts pouring the fuel all over the car and the cabin. Her hands are shaking, but her eyes are full of anger. Once everything is soaked, she quickly lights a match and sets the whole cabin and car on fire. The place where she had suffered so much begins to burn down completely. Emma doesn't look back. She walks away. And that's where the movie ends. So friends, this was the story of how Emma took revenge on the people who tortured her. The movie is intense and powerful. Definitely worth watching at least once. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified. And don't forget to like and share this video. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.